In my haste to kind of put some content out yesterday, I forgot to the last couple days. I forgot to mention that back on the fourth, I had a conversation with my mom, and she called me early in the freaking morning, which I wasn't happy about. But she called me early in the morning and asked me did my wife and kids get to out to my wife's where she's originally from, because I'm not gonna fucking put that online. But did they get there? And I was like, yeah. And we stayed on the phone for about 40 minutes or so, and we always have good conversations that I wish I could record, because a lot of people come to my videos and they think I have a hatred for black women, when I was raised by black women. The thing about it is I was raised by black women that was from a different generation. One that, or my grandmother was born in the 20s. My mom was born in the 50s. And they come with a different mind frame than these women that were born in the late 90s and early 2000s. Completely different. Now, we had a talk, and she brought up something about, what Trump was doing, and I stopped her and I said, well, Mom, you got to understand, look at how we treat each other. We're worried about what racist white people are doing. We need to be worried about what racist black people are doing to each other. How we treat each other. And how we are killing each other at a ridiculous clip. And I brought up to her about what happened in Chicago. And I said, there's black boys and men killing themselves, slaughtering themselves by the dozens, and it doesn't receive any outcry. And I said, one irresponsible black chick walks into a freezer and it's national news. And I said, the black community don't care about black men. And guess what my mother said? You're right. I wish I recorded it, because I know motherfuckers probably still ain't gonna believe me. So when people want to come here and say, oh, well, you talk about women of color, you talk about the women who... No, I'm not. Because you want to know what? The women who raised me understood the need and the necessity for real men and having babies by real men. Men who showed some type of fortitude, who showed some type of ambition to be something more than a rapper or a drug dealer or an athlete. Because none of my uncles were athletes or entertainers or anything. They were men who worked in factories and worked damn hard and provided for their families. These were my uncles. Okay? My grandmother put me around them to see what men do. That's why I worked 2 jobs, and I've worked 2 jobs going on 14 years. I've worked 2 jobs. Okay? That's where I get my work ethic from. Because I saw men putting their hands in the dirt, doing hard labor. The job I do, I'm sitting at a computer doing coding and shit. They were doing hard factory labor jobs. Right? Now, back to the conversation between me and my mom. I brought up the fact that men are killing themselves at a higher percent suicide rate, higher than women. Yet, if women were killing themselves at the rate that men were doing, it would be a national outcry. Guess what she said? You're right. I brought up the fact about, because this was along the lines of saying how we treat each other. The one time I had a black boss, I had an internship. And this dude, I think I talked about it on another video, and how this dude behind the cubicle when it was just me and him, we talking like we in the hood, we talking like we in the street. All of a sudden, he brings me around, introduces me around the office. All of a sudden, he just this Poindexter voice and all this other shit, and this guy here, and then he starts talking to them like he's like I'm a charity case and he's helping me out. I said we treat each other like shit. We have no qualms about that. If you don't fit a certain stereotype, then you ain't black. You ain't this. And my mom said, and she said this out of the blue. She said, I don't want to work for someone who's black. Let me say this again. When I brought that up and I talked about how messed up, how he treated me, how he decided he was just going to screw me over and get me fired but not be the one who fired me even though he was the one who hired me. Because at the end of the day, I didn't technically work for the company. So to bring someone in from HR was a little funny to me, especially when he was the one trying to push for me to get fired. And I didn't do anything other than someone allegedly told him I left early and I was stealing time. So I put down that I left early, but I put down that I stayed the full time. And I told him I didn't take a lunch. So I was thinking if I didn't take a lunch, that instead of taking that hour, I could just work my 5 hours and then bounce, as opposed to taking a lunch and then having to work another 3 hours or whatever the case may be. Yet somehow that managed to be I was stealing time. And he kept, pushing it and pushing it and pushing it and pushing it until eventually I got fired. So my mother brought this up and I didn't provoke her to say it. And I said, we need to stop acting like white folks is the fucking devil. Because ask yourself whether it was a business contract, whether you own your own business and it was a business contract, whether you are an employee and you work somewhere, what color, what face, what race was of the person that gave you an opportunity, that gave you a shot, that bent the rules a little bit so you could get in and whatnot. Because I'm going to tell you, where that black dude was trying to get me fired, at the same time, I got a job, which is my part-time job to this day. My mom used to work with him. I had no prior experience. He fudged the records so that I could get $2 more on my salary than what I should have been getting. Now ask yourself, why would a racist white person help out a little old darky Negro like me, and then the Negro who could have helped me basically got me fired? Tell me that. Explain that to me. See, we need to stop acting like none of this is related. Like all this dysfunctional shit is just one thing over here, one thing over here, one thing over there. No, this shit is all related. There is no such thing as self-hate. If I am critiquing something because I don't like it, I don't have a self-hatred. If I say I'm an Atlanta Braves fan, this is the first year that they've actually been relevant, and I've actually been excited about the talent that they put on the field. Now, if I say for the last 6 years, the Atlanta Braves have sucked. They put out crappy players. They get these old dudes for whatever reason, and then they release them or they trade them or whatever, and they get nothing back for them. Now, I'm critiquing my team. Do I have self-hatred? Do I have self-hatred because I associate myself as a Brave fan? So I have a vested interest, right? Because the equivalent is, if I'm critiquing a black woman, that black woman gave me life, right? Raised me just like that woman was saying in my comment section. So there's a vested interest, right? So if I critique my favorite sports baseball team, Do I have self-hatred? Because I am a Brave fan and I'm talking about my team. I am a black man. I'm talking about the woman that's supposed to be on my team. And if I see she's doing shit, conduct detrimental to the team, that is not self-hatred. That is me saying, wait a minute, this is some fucked up shit that you're doing right now. You complain about how these kids are being miseducated in school, yet at the same time you spend $10 billion on fake hair. That shit is unacceptable. And it should be unacceptable. There's no way in hell that this should be okay, that children are being miseducated in these public schools, but $10 billion are going towards fake hair extensions. That don't make any sense. None whatsoever. And that, me bringing that up is not self-hatred. Me bringing that up is not bashing. Me bringing that up is not me having a hatred for every black woman that ever had a hand in raising me. Because you know what? Those black women that raised me, they made sure there was a roof over my head and food on the table before they put some fake ass shit on their head. And my thing is this. Were we not in dire straits as a people, I wouldn't care what you do with your money. I wouldn't care what you do with your hair. Be fake all you want. Whatever. But we got black children that ain't even got homes, that are orphans, that are being adopted by every other race but black. But we got $10 billion for fake hair. You got women living in ridiculous conditions. These project houses, public houses, all this shit. Nice cars, rims on them, just gleaming. Living off of another dude's child's money through child support, and the children are lacking. The children are suffering. Now, is this again? If I have to say it's not all, that means it's a vast majority. Because you would have to literally say, you have to comb through and say, oh, see, there, it's not all. Nobody wants to talk about this but me. And the fact that I'm talking about it is getting my channel fucked with. And it's not being fucked with through being flagged or whatever, whatnot, but the progression of it. My channel was growing, and then all of a sudden it stagnated, and now it's stalled out. But it's funny how a black woman called my mom gets what I'm talking about. She gets what I'm talking about because she's the one who taught me how to see the shit. There were other people, other influencers that kind of honed it in, sharpened it a little bit more. But at the end of the day, she's the one who gave me the vision for it. My grandmother, the one who gave me the vision for it. See, I might call you a bitch and a hoe, but my grandmother will call you a floozy and a hussy. That's where I got that from. Okay? My whole demeanor, my whole shtick is from black women. I'm honest enough to admit that shit. Because I was predominantly raised by my grandmother, who was from Greeleyville, South Carolina. Okay? Who dealt with real racism. Not because some motherfucker didn't want you at Starbucks. I'm talking about real shit. Stories that she told me during the Depression. How my great-grandfather, who I'm named after, he had a prize mule. And she told me the whites in the town wanted it. Wanted him to sell it. He said, this is how I make my money. I can't sell you my prize mule because this is how they were sharecroppers. This is how I make my money. They killed and mutilated his mule because he wouldn't sell it to them. That's some real racism shit. Not no motherfuckers not wanting you to kicking you out because you didn't buy a fucking frozen coffee. That's not. Shit is all twisted. So, at the end of the day, It's amazing how older black women get it. I talked to my mom's cousin, which I call her auntie. I'm not gonna say her name, put her name out there, but I call her auntie. But she's my mom's cousin, and I was telling her about the same thing, and she was in agreement too. Because they know these modern black chicks are fucking lost. They're insane. They have mental issues, and because they have mental issues, they raise their children up to see their mental issues as being normal. That's why someone like me who didn't grow up around black women who had fucking mental issues, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, wait, this shit is. These dudes come to my shit and fucking talk shit to me about how much of a bitch I am because I don't think it's normal that another female would put someone else's DNA on their fucking head. But it is what it is, and at the end of the day, I don't foresee the so-called black race being around much longer because nobody wants to see it do better. Again, I keep going back to that video. I know some of y'all probably tired of hearing me talk about it, but it's a treasure trove of the microcosm of the black community, of how so many dudes who came on there to talk shit had nothing to say about what the woman did to me. Excuse me. They just came there to insult the way I look. Insult because my face is chunky, but I'm not I'm not really like fat. I'm not obese like that. But my face is chunky. I always had a fat face. As I've gotten older, it's gotten a little bit more fatter. But if you look at my sons, which I'm not gonna put them up there, but my sons got the same. They gonna have the same problem, cause they got like a wide face, like me, but they skinny. They got a little tummy, but they're not, bleh. But I don't know. I'm blabbering now, so I'm just in the video. But at the end of the day, I find it funny that my mom get it, my aunties get it, but you black chicks don't get it. You think I hate them because of what you do. That's scary.